Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive into frugal living. We're going way past just like the basics today. We're assuming you already know the clipping coupons and turning off the light stuff.
Right.
We are going deep, like into the nitty gritty. We're talking psychology of spending. We'll touch on sustainable living, even a bit of digital minimalism.
Oh, yeah.
All of this, by the way, is based on the frugal household tips, save money and live better that you sent over. So get ready. I think you'll have a few aha moments. I definitely did.
I think what's so often overlooked is that, frugality isn't about being deprived.
Right.
It's more about getting your spending to match up with what really matters to you, right?
Yeah.
It's about making choices that lead to a richer life, not just financially, but personally, too.
Exactly. So let's start with the foundation, budgeting. I thought it was really interesting that the source recommends not just tracking your expenses, but using this method called zero-based budgeting. Have you found that to be a useful strategy?
Yeah, it can be a really powerful tool, especially for those who feel like their budget is always stretched thin.
Right.
Because with zero-based budgeting, what you're doing is you're giving every single dollar you make a job to a specific expense or saving goal. It makes you really think about your spending and choose where your money goes.
That makes a lot of sense. And instead of just saying vaguely save more, the source is really big on setting up sinking funds.
Yeah.
For those expenses, that we tend to forget about, like car repairs or holiday gifts, I've been trying it out myself, and I have to say, it makes those unexpected costs way less stressful.
Totally, because it's all about planning.
Right.
You're taking away that element of surprise from your finances.
Right.
Like you have a secret weapon now against those unexpected costs that can totally throw your budget off.
Okay, let's talk about grocery shopping now. The source really emphasizes meal planning, but beyond just making a list of meals, have you found any tools or strategies that actually help people stick to their plan and avoid those impulse buys at the store?
Well, one strategy that I've seen work really well is to plan your meals around what's on sale at the grocery store.
Oh, that's smart.
A lot of supermarkets have apps or websites where they'll list their weekly specials.
Right.
And that way you can actually plan your meals based on ingredients that are discounted.
Oh, that's great. And the source mentioned Ibotta and Rakuten, which I've used. Are there any other lesser-known cashback apps or browser extensions that you think our listener might find helpful?
Yeah, one that comes to mind is Honey. It's a browser extension, and it automatically looks for and applies coupon codes when you're checking out online.
Okay.
It's amazing how often it finds a discount that you wouldn't have even known about.
Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about utility savings. The source mentions switching to LED light bulbs.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So let's say someone's living in a two-bedroom apartment. How much could they realistically save on their electric bill?
Well, it totally depends on how much they use and what their electricity rates are like. But switching to LEDs in a two-bedroom apartment, they could easily save, $50 to $100 a year.
Oh, wow.
And LEDs last way longer than normal bulbs, so you're also saving on having to replace them as often.
That is significant. I was actually surprised when I first switched. I was like, oh, okay. The source also talks about, unplugging electronics to avoid those phantom loads.
Yes.
But beyond the cost savings, I feel like there's this bigger conversation to be had here about just how much energy we use.
Oh,
Right?
for sure. It's so easy to forget how much energy our devices use, even when we're not actively using them.
Right.
Being mindful of those phantom loads is a step towards being more aware of our energy use and, the impact it has on the environment.
Yeah.
It's part of that bigger sustainable living thing.
Speaking of sustainable living entertainment on a budget, the source has the classic tip about using free resources like parks and libraries, but then there's this fun jar idea.
The fun jar, yeah.
Which I think is so clever. Not only does it save money, but it pushes you to try things you might not have thought of before.
Right. It brings that little bit of spontaneity into your downtime.
Yeah.
So instead of defaulting to expensive outings or just passive entertainment, you're actively picking experiences that are fun, A&D, easy on the wallet.
Right.
It's a really cool way to make memories without spending a ton.
Yeah. And the source also talks about canceling unused subscriptions, which is a perfect, I think, transition into digital minimalism.
Yeah.
Something I've been trying to be more aware of myself. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think digital minimalism is all about choosing how we use technology. and focusing on the tools and services that actually add value to our lives.
Right.
It's like decluttering our digital spaces, just like we declutter our homes. It can help you feel more peaceful and clear-headed.
I totally agree. It's so easy to get sucked into social media or feel overwhelmed with all the information coming at us. Taking a step back and curating our digital lives can free up a lot of time and energy for, the things that really matter.
And it can help us kind of break free from that always needing to buy something mindset that, can drive our digital habits. We start asking ourselves, do we really need that next app or that subscription or that new gadget? Or is it just marketing and social pressure getting to us?
I think that's such an important point. It's about shifting our focus from getting more to appreciating what we already have, right?
Absolutely.
And using our resources, whether it's digital stuff or physical things, in a way that matches up with what we actually care about.
I think that's the core of frugal living right there.
Yeah.
It's realizing that real wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by how rich your experiences are and how strong your connections are with others.
Very well said. Okay, let's move on to something that I think often involves both money and creativity DIY projects. The Source has this great tip for making your own cleaning supplies.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
I actually started doing this a while back, and it's shockingly easy, and it really works.
It is really cool to know you can make your own cleaning products that are just as good, if not better, than the store-bought stuff. And you're using simple, natural ingredients, things you probably already have.
Yeah, and it's so much better for you and for the environment than those harsh chemical cleaners.
Right.
I've noticed such a difference in the air quality in my home since I made the switch.
It really is a small change that makes a big impact, both on you personally and, the planet.
Right. And speaking of being thoughtful about what we bring into our homes, let's talk about thrifting.
Thrifting, I love it.
I love how the Source highlights the thrill of finding those one-of-a-kind gems at thrift stores. What do you think it is about thrifting that draws people in, besides just saving money?
I think it's a few things. It's the sustainability aspect. It's affordable. And there's that thrill of the hunt.
Yeah.
You're giving pre-loved items a second life, cutting down on waste. And you can express your own style in a really unique way. Plus, you never know what you're going to find.
Right. It's a total treasure hunt. It's not like shopping at a regular store at all.
Exactly. And it challenges that idea that we need to buy brand new things all the time to feel good about ourselves or our homes. It's about finding that joy in the process of discovering something cool and appreciating things that are well made, even if they've had a previous owner.
That's a really great point. It's like changing our mindset from always wanting to buy more to a more thoughtful and sustainable way of getting the things we need and want.
Yeah. And I think that change in thinking can spill over into other parts of our lives too.
Right.
Like how we buy clothes or how we choose to spend our free time.
Well said. And on that note, let's talk about a topic that can be a big expense for a lot of people.
Transportation.
Transportation, yeah. The Source talks about the financial and environmental pluses of carpooling, public transport, biking, and walking. From your perspective, have you seen any changes in how people think about getting around, especially in cities?
Definitely. More and more people are realizing that owning a car costs way more than they thought. Not just money, but also the impact it has on the environment and even just the time and stress of driving.
Right.
So they're looking for other ways to get around that are better for their wallet and the planet.
It's really cool to see that happening. It's about opening up our minds to other ways to get places. Ways that are not just cheaper, but better for the planet and our own well-being.
I think that's it. Expanding our options and then choosing what works for us, for our own needs and values.
And on that note of being aware of how we impact the planet, let's dive into waste reduction.
Waste reduction.
The Source mentions things like composting, reusing containers, and cutting back on paper products. These are all great ways to shrink our footprint and save money at the same time.
Yeah, it's about changing the way we think.
Yeah.
Moving away from that throw it away mentality.
Yeah.
And toward a more circular way of doing things where we're reducing, reusing, and recycling as much as possible.
I'm personally a huge fan of composting. It's really amazing to see how you can turn kitchen scraps into this nutrient-rich soil for your garden.
Yeah. It's a perfect example of how we can turn what we might think of as waste into something valuable. And it connects us back to nature's cycles.
I totally agree. It's all about realizing that everything is connected and that our actions, good and bad, make a difference.
It really is. And when you realize that, it's really empowering. It gives you the power to make choices that match up with what you believe in and make the world a better place.
Beautifully put. And on that note, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to dig into even more frugal living tips and strategies.
And we're back to our Frugal Living deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about composting and cutting back on waste, which I think kind of leads us nicely into clothes and personal care. Yeah, definitely. It's all about looking and feeling good without overspending or, feeding into that fast fashion and overconsumption thing.
Right. The source mentions building a capsule wardrobe, which I've heard of, but I'll be honest, I never really got what it meant. Can you break that down for our listeners?
So basically, a capsule wardrobe is a collection of essential clothing pieces that are really high quality. And you can mix and match them to create a bunch of different outfits.
Okay.
The idea is to focus on pieces that are timeless, that don't go out of style quickly, so you don't constantly feel like you need to buy new clothes.
So it's about quality over quantity. I love that. And I bet it makes getting dressed so much easier. No more staring into your closet feeling like you have nothing to wear.
Exactly. It makes your wardrobe simpler. You don't have to make as many decisions. And it encourages you to invest in clothes that are made well and will last longer, which, is better for the environment and supports more ethical fashion practices. Win-win.
I'm totally into this. The source also mentions clothing swaps.
Oh, yeah, clothing swaps.
As a way to, freshen up your wardrobe without spending any money, have you ever done a clothing swap?
I have. They're so fun.
Right.
It's a cool way to meet people who are into the same stuff, get rid of clothes you don't wear anymore, and you might find some really cool stuff to take home.
Oh, that's great.
Plus, it's a much more sustainable way to get clothes than buying new.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
like you can shop guilt-free knowing you're not contributing to fast fashion. Okay, the source also talks about basic sewing skills.
Right.
I'm not very good with the needle and thread, but I can totally see how knowing how to do even simple repairs could save you a bunch of money.
It's a good skill to have, and it's sad that not many people know how to sew anymore.
Yeah.
Even just learning how to mend things or do little alterations can make your clothes last way longer.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like bringing back that idea of taking care of your things and appreciating them, which I think is great. Now, let's talk about personal care on a budget. The source mentions coconut oil and aloe vera.
Yeah, those are essentials.
I always have those around.
They're so versatile, and they don't cost much. Coconut oil is great for moisturizing, hair masks, taking off makeup, even cooking. And aloe vera is amazing for sunburns, any kind of skin irritation, even acne.
They're like little miracles from nature. And speaking of pampering yourself, the source is a big fan of at-home spa days.
At-home spa days, love it.
It's a good reminder that you don't have to spend a ton of money to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. You can totally create that luxurious, relaxing spa experience at home. Just use simple things like oatmeal, honey, essential oils. It's a perfect way to de-stress and feel refreshed without emptying your wallet.
It's about being intentional, right? Taking care of yourself, both your body and your mind.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about raising kids who are smart about money.
Yeah, that's so important. It's never too early to start teaching kids about money and how to make good financial choices.
The source really emphasizes getting secondhand stuff for kids, which I think is brilliant. Kids grow so fast. I remember spending so much on clothes and toys for my nieces and nephews when they were little, and they'd outgrow it all in like a month.
Yeah. It's just way more sustainable and affordable to buy things secondhand.
Yeah.
And it teaches kids that it's okay to reuse things.
Right. It's about breaking that cycle of constantly buying new stuff.
Yeah.
And helping them understand that it's important to take care of their things and, the planet. The source also mentions hand-me-downs, which I think are fantastic, especially for bigger families.
Yeah. Hand-me-downs are great. They can save you a lot of money, and it's less waste.
Yeah.
And they can create this sense of family history, passing things down from one generation to the next.
I love that. It's like creating this tradition of being mindful about what we buy and appreciating what we already have. The source is also big on putting money into savings first.
Yes.
Which I've always tried to do. It's amazing how much easier it is to reach your money goals when you make saving a priority.
It's like you're paying yourself first.
Right.
You're saying that your financial health is just as important as any other bill you have to pay, and it teaches kids that saving is a good habit.
I remember when I was little, my parents gave me a piggy bank, and I loved putting coins in it and watching it get full. It taught me the value of saving when I was really young, and that stuck with me.
Those early experiences really shape how we think about money, don't they? When we teach kids about saving and how to spend responsibly, it gives them the tools to make good decisions about money their whole lives.
And the source also talks about checking your bills carefully. Something I'll admit I'm not always great at.
Oh, it's so important. You have to check your bills. It's how you catch mistakes or make sure you're not being overcharged. You can see how you're spending your money and make sure you're not paying for stuff you don't actually need.
Yeah, you're right. It's about taking control of your money instead of just letting it come and go without really knowing where it went.
Exactly. And that leads to another important point. Investing and learning about personal finance. There's so much information out there. Books, articles, podcasts, online courses.
Right. It's like an investment that pays off for your whole life. The more you know about managing your money, the better you are at making smart financial decisions, reaching your goals, and building a secure future.
And it's something you never stop learning.
Right.
Things are always changing, so you have to keep learning and be ready to change your strategies too.
Good point. It's not about finding the one perfect answer that works for everyone. It's more about being open to learning new things and changing with the times.
Exactly. Be curious, ask questions, and find information that helps you make the best choices for you and your family.
And that kind of brings us back to the minimalist mindset, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think minimalism and frugal living really go hand in hand.
They totally do. Minimalism encourages us to simplify our lives and focus on what matters. And frugal living helps us use our resources wisely and make intentional decisions about how we spend.
It's about making sure what we buy matches up with what we believe in, and realizing that real wealth isn't about how much stuff we have, but how rich our experiences are and how strong our relationships are.
It's about living a life that is intentional and fulfilling. And I think that's the core of both minimalism and frugal living.
I love that. It's about deciding for ourselves what it means to be wealthy, not letting society tell us.
Okay, we've covered a lot today, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling pretty inspired to embrace a more frugal lifestyle.
I hope so. There are so many different tips and strategies, but at the end of the day, it's about finding what works for you and your own situation.
Exactly. There's no magic formula. It's about trying things out, adjusting, and finding what clicks for you and helps you reach your goals.
And be patient. You don't have to change everything overnight. Frugality is a journey. Make small changes that you can stick with, and over time, they'll make a big difference. Yeah, and remember to enjoy the process. Frugal living can be really rewarding and empowering. It's about taking charge of your finances, being kind to the planet, and building a life that has meaning and is sustainable.
It's about understanding that true wealth isn't about how much you buy, but about how much you experience, how much you connect with others, and how much you give back.
Beautifully said. So, to wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's leave our listeners with something to think about. What's one little thing you can do today to be more frugal? Maybe you can make your coffee at home instead of going to the coffee shop, pack your lunch instead of eating out, or spend a few minutes planning your meals for the week. Every little bit helps.
And remember, being frugal isn't about depriving yourself. It's about making choices that match what's important to you. It's about living a life that is both full and intentional.
I love that. It's about finding that balance, enjoying the good things in life while also being mindful of how we use our resources.
Exactly. And that, I think, is the essence of frugal living.
Well said. And that's it for this part of our deep dive into frugal living. We hope you found it helpful and are feeling inspired to create a life that's even more fulfilling and meaningful.
You have the power to build a life you love, a life full of amazing experiences and strong connections without going broke.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into the stuff that matters to you. It could be as simple as swapping out one store-bought thing for something you make at home.
Man.
Or, taking a minute to really research something before you click buy now.
It's about that pause.
Yeah.
That moment of reflection, asking yourself, do I actually need this? Or am I just getting caught up in the moment?
That's such a good question. And I think sometimes those frugal choices, they end up being the most rewarding ones in the long run.
Yeah.
Whether it's, being out in nature, spending time with loved ones, doing a hobby that brings you joy.
Those are the things that make life rich.
Yeah.
And they usually don't cost a thing.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus, right?
Right.
From stuff to experiences, relationships, personal growth.
It's about understanding that real wealth isn't what you have, but how much you truly live, how much you love, how much you give back to the world.
So go into this frugal living thing with a sense of adventure.
Yeah?
It's a journey that can lead to a more fulfilling, more meaningful life, a life that's sustainable too.
And remember, you don't have to do it all at once.
Right.
Start small. Try different things. See what works for you.
Celebrate those little wins. Learn from the times it doesn't go perfectly, and most importantly, be kind to yourself.
Frugal living isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress. It's about making choices that line up with what you believe in, what you want your life to be.
Well, that's it for our Frugal Living deep dive. We hope you found this exploration helpful, and maybe it's giving you a little boost of inspiration.
Remember, you have the power to design a life you love, a life that's full of meaning, that reflects who you are, and that supports you. And you can do it without breaking the bank.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the things that light you up.